Hello, welcome to the tutorial video for the new SPT page on the SAFD website. So what you'll need to do first, obviously, is go to the SAFD website, make sure that you are logged in as yourself, and head over to the test section. Once you get there, so far it still pretty much looks the same. If you have more than 10 tests, you might want to drop it down so you can see your full list of tests. We're going to go ahead and create a new test. To do that, right over here in Index, you click Create Test. So the first thing you'll need to do is create a name of the event. Now the name of the event would be something like 2016 University of Zev test. The reason you might want a naming scheme like that in particular is if you happen to do the same test every year or something like that. The sponsor would be the organization. That's not a required field, but it usually helps. So something like perhaps the Zev Steinberg Institute of Awesome. And of course, you'll choose a date whenever the event is actually going to happen. Choose a city and a state. The next thing you're going to do is choose the weapons that are being offered in the test. So this one's going to involve rapier dagger, unarmed, and broadsword. Save. So now the test event has been created, and it brings you now to the testing page. As soon as the page loads, then you'll be able to start entering in the information. So the first thing you'll want to do immediately is add the certified teachers. You must add yourself, otherwise you won't be able to find the test later. But you can also add multiple teachers. So of course I can search for me, and this was a 2-teacher test, so let's say that it was me and H. Russ Brown are the 2 teachers, adjudicated by the illustrious Charles Coyle. And then that's it. Now the event has been created. From here, all we really need to do, clicking save, once you've actually entered it, you don't actually have to keep clicking save. Every time you click, it saves it automatically. But there's this big red button to make us all feel better. So now it's time to add participants to the test. So over here in the Add Participant area, you'll click on the Add Participant button, which brings you to this pop-up. So it's pretty straightforward. You're going to choose the student that you want to add, and you're going to choose what they are testing in. It's important to point out that the first click will add them as an SPT, a test. A second click turns this into a renewal, and the third click removes it. So once again, it is a test, SPT, SPR, or nothing. So what we're going to do is we're going to search for the student. So one thing I've done is I've added a whole bunch of fake students. So if you search for the word student, then we have student 1 through 20. This is useful if you want to create a test event and you don't have all of the students' information yet, but you want to calculate the finances. You can use these as placeholders. So we're going to add student 1 to the test, and student 1 is testing in everything. Now I can either click Add to go on to the next one, or I can add and close the window when I'm done. I have more students to add, so I'm just going to click Add. And you'll notice in the background here, student 1 has been added. I can go ahead and add student 2. Oh, I have to spell it right. There's student 2, and student 2 is also testing in everything. Add. So now let's say you're not using the placeholders, but you're actually looking for a real person. So let's say I want to search for my student. Let's see. His first name is David. Last name, there it is. David Boucher is going to be doing an unarmed renewal. Let's add that. And so then we're going to skip ahead and let's say we've added a whole bunch more students. Okay, let us say now that you need to add a student that isn't already in the system. So for example, we're going to say I have a student named Chuck Norris. Well, Chuck Norris doesn't show up. If I search Chuck, that's not it. If I search for Norris, there are some Norrises in here, but it's not Chuck Norris. So you'll notice every time you start searching for something, an option pops up at the top that gives you the option to create a new member. So if you can't find the member, what you should do is put in the email address you're going to use, and then you can create that new member. Now technically that feature also works even if you don't put in the email and still choose the new member. So I'll show you what happens if you do that. So I can create a new member with email Chuck Norris. I click on this, and now I have the quick register. The reason we ask for the email is because that's the field that's going to populate, is this email field right here. So in order to add someone to the system, you need a first name, a last name, and an email, which his is, of course, chuck@norris.com. So now I create the student. I have now added Chuck Norris to our database. I still need to add him to the test. Chuck Norris is doing his first test in Rapier and Dagger and Broadsword. So now Chuck was the last person I was going to add to this, so I can now click Add and Close Window. It brings me right back to my edit page, and here are all the people that I've added to my test. You'll notice there's two different colors. Tests are black and renewals are this reddish orange color. So you can easily spot which ones are tests and which ones are renewals. When you first add the student, it's going to immediately give them an NP, which is no pass. When it comes time to actually grade these students, you click on their grade, and you can either give them a basic, a recommended, or a no pass. So we're going to say student 1 basicked the Rapier Dagger, student 1 wrecked his unarmed, and also wrecked Broadsword. Rapier Dagger's a challenge. Student 2, his partner, got the same results. So as you see, you can move through pretty quickly and grade these. David Boucher did very poorly on his renewal, but his partner, Eric Fredrickson, recommended. We had to give him an Uncle Eric. So then Chuck Norris over here, of course, recommended his Rapier and Dagger, and of course recommended his Broadsword. But I forgot that Chuck Norris also tested in unarmed, but I had forgotten to add that earlier. That's okay, I can do that right now. If I click on the plus, I can choose he's adding a test or a renewal. Let's say it's a test, and now we have a test that we can grade, and he got a basic. I also realized that I mistakenly thought that student 2 here was testing an unarmed, but it was actually a renewal. So one thing I can do is I can go and delete that entire record, and now I can re-add it as a renewal and grade it again. So now let's say that it's a little bit closer to the event, and I realize that I want to add a weapon to the test. So for example, I forgot that Chuck Norris also wanted to do a renewal. So we have this new feature here, it's called the Add Weapon option. I'll click on this button, and I want to add the fact that he's doing a Broadsword and Shield test. So what you'll notice is it's now added an entire column to this test. I can add as many students to this weapon as I'd like, but specifically I want to offer Chuck his renewal in Broadsword and Shield, which he is of course doing with student 1. They are now both renewing in Sword and Shield. And after the test, I can grade them with whatever they've received. A couple more features that you'll notice is there's a number count at the bottom that'll keep tallying up however many people are in the test. And when it's time to finally calculate all the finances, that is still located in the same section here. I'll come up to the top of the page and I click on Finances. At any point after I've been adding students and weapons, it will start to calculate the finances of the test automatically. So the total fees collected for the renewals, total fees for just the SPTs. I will also be able to add on to here the housing and the airfare and all of the other expenses. So per diem number of days was 2. The housing cost $300. The number of miles driven was, we'll say, 250 miles. And as soon as I save the finances, all of these numbers are now going to update. Chances are, because I have not a lot of weapons going on, I'm not doing too bad. So the amount due to the adjudicator is $745, and the amount to the SAFD is $100. Now sometimes we have scenarios in universities in particular where sometimes the expenses don't have to be calculated in with the fees because they weren't truly an expense. Like for example, let's say that the host paid for the housing, so even though it was $300, we'll mark it there, but if I check this off, this housing does not need to be reimbursed to the Fight Master, but instead is taken in as no longer an expense. And so as you see, the totals have been adjusted here. The amount to be paid for the SAFD can either be sent by check or you can send it through PayPal. So here you are looking at your list of tests, and now the test that we created is here at the top. It's always going to be sorted by the date. And let's say that you maybe entered in one of the grades wrong, or perhaps you made a typo in one of the students' names or email addresses, you can go back into your test at any time by simply clicking on the Edit button. It will reload the test and reload all the lists. And then as soon as it is finished loading, you can go in and you can very quickly add a test or a renewal. You can change a grade. You can also, if perhaps I misspelled Chuck Norris, I can click on this Edit button and I can change something that I typed here. It is important to note that this Edit button over here, let's say I accidentally assigned this to Chuck Norris when instead I should have assigned all of these results to Jackie Chan. I confused the two gentlemen. If I click Edit here and I change the name to Jackie Chan and change the email, that's not going to reassign it to the person. That's going to change Chuck Norris's profile. So it's important to note that. If I needed to change this to Jackie Chan, then I need to remove the line here and take him off the test entirely, then add the participant for Jackie Chan and put all the tests in. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to email the IT administrator at any time. Have a great day.